How'd you like to go from single to happily ever after? This is Robert Manni, host of Guys TV, and this week my very special guest is relationship expert Marcia Naomi Berger. We're going to talk about how to find the one and keep them there. Right here, right now on Guys TV. You can also catch me on Guys Radio on KCAA in Southern California and my worldwide podcast, Guys TV, Guys Radio. Thanks for your support. All right, Guys Radio, my favorite portion of the show, and that's when I bring on another cool person to help me out and help our listeners out in terms of what's going on in the world and how they can improve their lives. So my very special guest is Marcia Naomi Berger, and we're going to talk about her book, Marriage Minded, an A to Z dating guide for lasting love. But let me set that up first. You know, a lot of times we ask ourselves, what are the benefits of being married, especially in today's world? Things are changing so much and it's so easy to date and swipe left and swipe right. And what are some of the insights and strategies? How do we develop long-lasting relationships? How to get the most out of dating? Things are so crazy now, and we've been away from each other with the pandemic for a couple of years. So people are just learning how to say hi and fist bump again. How do we define and communicate our deal breakers when we do have a new relationship? The importance of self-confidence, and also how do we kind of keep the fun? Because after all, dating should be a fun sport. So let me tell you a little bit about Marcia Naomi Berger. She is an MSW and LCSW. I'm not 100% sure what those mean, but hopefully you guys do. She leads dynamic marriage and communication workshops, and she's a popular speaker at conferences, a clinical social worker with a private psychotherapy practice. She's taught continuing education classes for therapists at the University of California, Berkeley Extension, Alliant International University, and for various professional associations. She lives in Marin County with her husband of 33 years, and she gives their weekly marriage meetings major credit for making a lasting happiness together, and it's inspired her to write her first book, the best-selling Marriage Meetings for Lasting Love. Affirming the universal need for loving relationships, Marriage Minded, the new book, an A to Z dating guide for lasting love, makes wanting to be married a valid choice and worthwhile goal for smart, strong, and independent women of all ages, and for the guys who who respect and appreciate them. And I'm one of those guys because, one, I love the work that Naomi is doing, and secondly, I got married later in life, so we're going to have an interesting conversation. So welcome to Guys Radio, Naomi Berger.
Thank you for having me on your show.
So here we are. So I guess the first question is marriage. Has it become outdated?
I don't think marriage is outdated at all. I think it's as beneficial as it always was when people know how to do it right, basically. I think marriage has changed a lot in the last 67 years. It used to be almost an economic necessity for women who wanted to have a middle-class lifestyle, and that's changed a lot. Women get good jobs now, and a third of them out earn their husbands. And also it's changed in that people don't have to be married to live together and even have children with society's okay. And so there's a different reason people are going to get married now. Whether they know it or not, they're looking for emotional and spiritual fulfillment. Of course, we want to have the material, the physical, sexual part, but what's missing when people say it's outdated, these are people who've been disappointed because their often unconscious expectations were not fulfilled. They might not have chosen their partner wisely, or they don't have the skills to gain the kind of relationship that they truly want deep down inside.
Let's talk about that a little bit, because when a man and a woman, in this case, we're going to talk about heterosexual couples, when they connect, they create a very unique, specific universe. And that comes with the rules that they put together. So what are some of the things that new couples should establish as they begin a relationship? Let's say they've gone out on a date or two and they're starting to say, okay, I think I can hang with this person for a while. What do they need to talk about? What are some of the things that they need to have a transparency about?
Okay, well, on an early date, it's about, like you said, just having fun and see where it goes. So a good thing to talk about, to learn about what somebody's interests are, if there's enough compatibility, could be what do you do for fun, how do you relax, what kind of music do you like? I mean, all these things. It doesn't have to be an exact match for sure, but you want to get a general sense of the person. Are you comfortable just hanging out? Because, okay, you have a lot of fun dating. You go to a lot of places. When you're married, I hope you still have dates, weekly dates. I advocate a lot. And then don't think so much about whether you both like to ski. I mean, I like to ski. My husband does not. But you work these things out if the big picture is good.
Mhm. So it sounds like the individual, everybody's an individual, so they're going to have their own likes and dislikes, and people know what they, will know what they want. Particularly women, as they age, they're specific on things. But it sounds like that having shared values is something that's paramount in terms of an ingredient for a successful relationship. Is that true, Naomi?
That is true. Yes, exactly. Very, very important. Shared values, which you don't know right away. And if you get involved too quickly, so you get into the physical part right away, these are the marriages that don't tend to last because they don't, sometimes they do, if it happens that they're lucky and they do have shared values, but they may not know that at first, and then they get blinded by the hormones.
A lot of times, people who have been out of the dating world, or they've had a bad relationship, or they come out of a bad divorce, they start to, they create a list of things that they want in a partner. And what I have experienced from talking to a lot of professionals in the area is that sometimes that list gets pretty long, and we have to kind of narrow it down. It's almost like the longer you haven't been dating, the longer the list grows. But we really have to narrow it down to some of the must-haves. What would be your take on that, Naomi?
Yes, I have seen that. I've done workshops called Marry with Confidence, workshops for women, and I actually have them make 3 lists. And the first one is the one that you mentioned. That is, what am I looking for? The second one is, what do I contribute? What's a potential partner going to appreciate about me? So we have to know that we have value too. And then the third list is the list that says, what areas, how can I grow? 5 ways where a potential spouse would approve or appreciate if I got a little better at whatever, showing up on time or speaking more respectfully, whatever it is. So the first list that you mentioned, very, very important. You said it in a good way. You separate what you want from what you need. There's an expression, nobody dies getting more than half of what they want. All right. But what you need, that's what's going to be the crucial thing, to have somebody in your life. Ideally, you want to have a lifelong partner, relationship, soulmate, and you're going to meet each other's essential needs. And I notice sometimes people put, especially if you have too long a list, a lot of superficial things. He has to be so tall, he has to be a certain age, have a certain occupation. Those are not the things that lead to a lasting, fulfilling marriage. It's how you really communicate. And a lot of people leave out kindness. And I think kindness is just so crucial. So I look for that when people make a list, and I say, hey, is that important to you? And so we get, and too many is like, somebody recently made a list of 25 wants and needs. So she just combined them. And then I helped her clarify, what if he's in a different political party from you, is that really a deal breaker? What does that have to do with how he treats you, how you treat him every day, etc.?
I totally understand. The name of the book is Marriage Minded, an A to Z dating guide for lasting love. And what the fun thing about the book is it starts with the letter A, and it goes right through the alphabet, and it's got a lot of very digestible sound bites in there. I think you did a great job where anybody can just flip to a page on a specific word and get something out of it. So nicely done there, Naomi. Let's talk about the what I've perceived to be a widening chasm in communication and understanding between men and women. About 10 years ago, I published my novel, A Guy's Guide to Love. And it's about, it's really a peek behind the curtain into the lives of modern men. And it's been called The Male Successor to Sex and the City. And I wrote the book because I thought there was a chasm in communication and understanding between men and women. And the reason I bring that up now is because I think the canyon and the chasm has grown wider in the last decade. What are your thoughts on that? Why do we have this, and what can be done about it?
my first thought is it's this addiction to communicating by texting and by emailing, where you're missing so much of the communication. And yeah, men and women do tend to communicate differently. Our brains are different. Women's brains are wired more towards relationships. Men's brains are wired more. This is very general, there's exceptions for sure. Men's brains are logical and spatially oriented. My son, even when he was real little, he could tell me how to drive to get from Y to Z, and I feel like, well, so it's different. It's not that one's better than the other, they're just different, and we can really grow by working with the differences and recognizing how complementary they can be. Complementary meaning that they kind of help each other. Now, I'm not saying compliment like expressing appreciation, but it is a feeling of appreciation when we find that we do fit together and that our differences actually enhance our relationship, because together we can grow more and learn more and do more than we can do alone.
Great answer. What do you think from the perspective of women's perspective and men's perspective? What is the opposite sex doing wrong? Let me just throw one thought in. I've interviewed a lot of female relationship experts, and to a person, they've said that, when I work with women, they, to a person, want men to be men in the best sense of the word. That means confident in their own skin, not arrogant, but they want guys to be guys. Am I wrong there?
Okay, so what does it mean, a guy to be guy? I think it really means
comfortable in their own skin, and
comfortable in their own skin.
A gentleman, emotionally, balanced, kind. I'm talking about good guy traits, guy traits, not just macho man, but to be sensitive in a good way, to treat others respectfully, but to be a man, to pursue the woman in a respectful way, to have ideas for maybe the first date, to be proactive, not to lay back or say, hey, let's hang out and wait till the woman makes all the decisions, because to me, it becomes tedious for the woman, because she's just going to take over. She's going to be dissatisfied, and the guy's going to say, okay, she wants to run the show, I'll let her. And it just creates a situation where the guy becomes lazier and the woman becomes more take charge. And the other thing I've heard from a lot of experts is that the toughest thing that some of the relationship coaches have when dealing with women is to get them to dial down the A personality when it comes to dating. So this all kind of flies in the face of one another. Does that make sense to you?
I think what you're saying, yes, I think what you're saying makes a lot of sense. I think women we're genetically programmed. We want to be taken care of. We do want a man who can take charge, and at the same time, we want a man who is kind and sensitive. So I think that is the ideal combination that we do want. And toning down often means, women, when they're not getting this, I think that's probably when we build up resentments and then feel critical. So what we have to tone down is the critical part, and we have to raise up the part that says, this is what I really want from you. This is what I need. It would make me happy if you decide, maybe not decide, but you make the suggestion for where we're going to go on our next date.
How about when sometimes with the ladies, they'll feel like, I see potential in this guy, I'm going to have to shape him a little bit. It's kind of like another word for bringing out the best of him. And there's nothing wrong with that, because I think women are a lot more aware than men in many ways, because guys, being a guy, we're more lone wolves. We don't talk about relationships with our friends. We'll watch sports, we'll play golf, we'll do stuff. And if there's an issue, it's a real issue, we might confide in our best friend or say, hey, I'm getting a divorce, or hey, I met somebody that's really important to me. But we don't get into some of the details where it seems like, you watch the TV show Sex and the City, they're talking about, four ladies are talking about everything. And guys don't roll that way necessarily. What are your thoughts on how men and women communicate with each other and with the opposite sex?
Okay, well, with each other, there's been a lot of research on that. Deborah Tannen wrote a book called, I'm trying to remember what it's called now. I think You Just Don't Understand, I think it's the name of her book. And she writes about how different ways men and women communicate, and which can be the source of a lot of misunderstandings if we're blaming it on the person rather than biology. And men, like you said, they're close friends. They talk about sports, and somebody made a joke if they're really getting intimate, they talk about the weather.
How do we then, what can both sexes do to use their differences to make the communication to the opposite sex better, to turn it into a positive?
Right. In a good relationship, each person is being herself or himself. And when that happens, if a woman is being empathic and using her relationship skills, I do believe it does rub off on the man, and then he gets better at it, and he benefits from it. Even if he doesn't become like a super duper communicator, he's becoming more sensitive, and he's appreciating that he is on the receiving end, that he's gaining the sensitivity from the woman that he's dating or is involved with or married to.
Okay, my special guest is Naomi Berger. Her book is Marriage Minded, the A to Z Dating Guide for Lasting Love. Let's get into some other topics. I'm having fun with this. Let's talk about money. A lot of times with relationships, it becomes this like time bomb, this hidden time bomb where, you know, people could have joint checking accounts, or they could do it separately. And then there's occasionally there's a surprise. I didn't know you were 80,000 in debt. Well, I didn't know you had this much money, you know, and it becomes like, wow, because when you're in a relationship, a serious relationship or marriage, everything's connected, whether you keep it separate or not. How can couples manage that?
Yeah, I love talking about money because it can mean different things to different people. And sometimes it's a smokescreen for control. You know, if I'm going to be in charge of all the money, then I make the decisions. Sometimes, often, probably most often, it's the smokescreen about feeling loved. If he's not willing to share his money with me, or if he's not willing to spend this much on something that I want, that means he doesn't love me. And they're going to go back and forth about money. But the real issue is, am I feeling cared for?
Okay. Sex.
Oh, can I say more about that?
Please.
Okay.
Sorry.
That this business you mentioned about the surprise, I didn't know you had that much money. It could be that little money, or that you're way in debt. These things should be discussed before getting married, and because it could be deal breakers. And so again, you know, you prepare, be proactive, and find out what you would be getting into before you make a very big, life-altering decision.
Okay. Sex. How important is it? And once you're in a long-term relationship or a marriage, how important does it become, or does it take a back seat, or does it always stay right up front?
Okay, well, there's what it does and what it should do. Okay, ideally it stays up front when you're married. And what was the other part of it that you asked me?
How important is it? Basically,
oh,
just
how important is it? It's
yeah.
important. Sex is like, I think of it as the glue that holds couples together. Once after they're married, before marriage, it can happen when people, or it happens when people want it to happen. The research is that the longer people wait, the better the relationship is in the long run once they're married.
Got it. Okay, the name of the book is Marriage Minded, an A to Z dating guide for lasting love. My special guest, Naomi Berger, LCSW. Please tell us about where we can find more about you, about your book, etc.
I'm Marcia Naomi Berger. My book is called Marriage Minded, an A to Z dating guide for lasting love. Oh, and just because you asked about LCSW, it means licensed clinical social worker, which is a license to provide psychotherapy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. And where you can find my book, the usual online places. I love independent bookstores, so I'm very happy if you choose one where you get the book, or you can go online. There's a company called Bookshop, and they somehow connect your purchase to the independent bookstore. I think the one near you, I'm not sure exactly how it works, but that's a relatively new place to get books. And you can ask your local bookstore for it. And so you can get just about anywhere. I'd love it. I love it to be in all the libraries too.
Fantastic. Well, listen, it's a great book. It's a lot of fun. It's easy to read, yet it's chock full of useful information. I want to thank you for being on the show. Naomi Berger, great job. Pleasure to meet you. Best of luck with the book.
Thank you so much, Robert. Thanks for having me
If
here.
you're enjoying the guests and content we bring you each and every week on Guys Radio and TV, please support us by subscribing to our channels. Thank you.